My name is Patricia Grimm, and I'm telling my quilt story at the Eustis Elks Lodge in Tavares, Florida on Tuesday, March 26, 2019. This quilt was started by my mother in 1940. Its pattern is the grandmother's flower garden. She started it in 1940 in Lowell, Mass. Her name is Rosa May Carroll Axon, with the buying of the material and template. She hand drew the pattern on the fabric and cut the hexagons using scissors. She started hand sewing some hexagons into the flower pattern. Then in 1943, she and her family moved to Washington, D.C. The sewing of the quilt became erratic as Rose had children, and eventually the quilt was stored. In the mid-1970s, Rose turned the quilt over to her daughter, Patricia Carroll Axon, in Oxon Hill, Maryland, to finish hand sewing the hexagons into flowers. Patricia hand sewed together many flowers, but due to work pressures, the quilt again went into storage. She doesn't remember she had a yellow square, and that was the one I hand sewed together, because I like yellow. In the late 1990s, the quilt was sent to Shrewsbury, Mass. For Thelma Axon Ingalls, sister of Rose's husband, to finish hand sewing together the flowers with the surrounding background. She completed the hand sewing of the pieces and had the quilt sandwiched and basted. She started to hand quilt, but she could no longer see to sew. So the quilt again in June of 2004 was sent to Patricia Carroll Axon Grimm in Eustis, Florida. Patricia continued to hand quilt the quilt and as the time allowed it, an arthritis-willing basis. On February 14, 2011, Patricia finally finished the hand quilting and hand sewing of the binding of the quilt. Patricia digitized the quilt history label and sewed it to the quilt on April 28, 2011. 70 plus years in the making. My mother died just as I finished this quilt. And she always wanted to see it, but she had macular degeneration and couldn't see. So we had it laying there at her funeral. And that's my story.